Notice you suddenly drop into, that's about 3 foot deep. Guess what? It's raining. I'd like to thank Trek Bar UK for not sponsoring this video. You can go to Trek Bar UK and then /Nigel and get absolutely no money off whatsoever. If you like driving, the 82 and the 87 heading up to the Isle of Skye, fantastic road. You've got your lights on! You've got your lights on! Your fog lights! And this morning, forecast looked better, but to give you an idea, I'm recording on my GoPro, but it's still been pouring with rain. But there are some breaks in the cloud. There's even some sunshine earlier, so I was going to get up for a dawn shoot, but I decided not to in the end, and that was a very wise move. So I've made a bit of a compromise, and I'm going to try and do 2 or 3 locations today, and I'm going to head off now to the first one. Even though it's now pouring with rain, there are still worse places to be. Not too much in my rucksack. Too much dinner last night. Good Guinness though. Sunny Scotland. You can see lens covers on. So important. If you do come up to Scotland, make sure you bring something. Okay, this is an unnecessarily elaborate camouflage one for when I'm doing my wildlife photography, but they're essential. Even with the weather seal cameras, you don't really want to take the risk of days and days of rain. So there was some light on the trees. There was a little bit on the hills. Then that disappeared. And now, as you can see, just the storm's coming in, but I'll give you a little walk around here. It's a beautiful, southeasterly end of one of the lochs here. And I've been thinking about doing a shot here as well. There's some nice separation with these islands, but if I get some light on the top of the hill, the only problem with that hill is it's not very dramatic. There are some much more dramatic ones over there. Like Loch and Ben, whatever. Yeah, there's some lovely ducks, and I think there's a pair of divers over here calling. So all we can do is bide our time and sit and wait. And to be honest, if you keep warm and dry, there are worse places to be, I guess. Although if it gets much heavier than this, I might refresh that. But beautiful. But I might as well talk you through the technique as well. What I'm using, it's really simple. It's there we go. It's my D810. It's a 2470. It's f9. I was trying to use ISO 64, which is a native ISO of the camera, but I've had to up that a little bit to get. There's wind buffeting the front of the lens, and with a shutter speed of around about a 30th or a 40th, it just wasn't getting sharp enough. So I've upped the ISO, I think, to 160, and I'm getting around about 100th of a second, or I was when the light hits the trees, and in fact it was a bit higher than that as well. So at the moment it's nothing to do, but it's going okay. Oh, wow, it's really cold, but look what I've got. Sunlight, beautifully reflecting, is coming up there. There's a blue sky up here, but it's still blowing at about 40 miles an hour. Light on the mountain is magnificent. I need something on trees, so a bit of a rush, try and get this little window of opportunity. Right, here goes. Well, the one thing you do need in Scotland is patience, and I probably only got about 6 or 7 minutes in 3 hours where the light was like this. And you can see I've still got rain on my jacket, but just for a few seconds the light was hitting the mountains in the background, picking out the details in the snow, but also hitting the foreground interest with the island and the birch trees, but also the midground with the land and the colours on the right. So you've got to be patient. I'm going to show you the image. I'm really quite pleased with it. Shortly after I took this, I thought make the most of the light, and I moved about literally only 30-40 yards to my left for a different angle. We're going to move on to that in a minute, but here's the image from this particular spot first. Right, you join me at I moved vantage points from over there to up here, and I've put the sort of trees in the bottom here and the mountains are up behind, and there's a nice natural dip there. But the problem is still the wind. The wind's actually picked up. It's gusting at, yeah, certainly 45. You even had white horses out in the lake a minute ago. And the light's been quite good, but I'm struggling. I'm using a ISO of well, I'm choosing an ISO 200, and I'm trying to get about a 320th of a second just to try and get something sharp. I tried 100th, 125th, and even on this really good sturdy tripod, doesn't matter. The wind, I'm going straight into the wind, and it's being buffeted all the time. The crazy thing with landscape photography, of course, is you're rushing. So suddenly the light changes, mad rush, get in there for the second photo, and be aware with the equipment as well. It was amazing how in just 3 or 4 hours I got through my first battery, and they normally last forever in my D810. But I did get this second shot, which I'm really pleased with, as I think it's complementary to the first one, and it just shows if you move just a few yards left or right how you can get quite a different perspective. And I'd be interested to know which one you prefer, the first one or this one, the second one. But that was pretty much it. I'd stayed much longer than I expected. I now had about a 3-mile walk back to the car, but as you can see the weather was glorious. Still quite cold, it's only about 2 or 3 degrees, but the scenery in Torridon is amazing, and if you do come prepared, you really can't do much worse as a location. But unbeknown to me, as I headed back towards the snow-capped mountains on Glen Torridon, I was going to get one more image. You know, it's like when you're trying to rush back to get to the car. I haven't had any lunch yet, and I was really trying to rush back, and I thought there's actually what you always see shots when you don't really expect to. But if you look down here, you've got these posts in the water, and I just came along the path and was having a look, and when the sun hits them, there's a lovely combination of posts and reeds, and I like my abstract images anyway. I'm quite keen on them. So when they're in the shade, it doesn't work, but when the sun hits the water, they go very high key. And with a fast shutter speed, I can chill out the water, actually sort of almost eradicate the movement. I'm going to try and get an image here. So quick 70 to 200. I'm trying to use fast shutter speed, and I'm slightly overexposing for that high key effect. So I think I've actually got, what have I got? Oh, I've got 125th at f8, 125th at f8 with ISO 200, and I'll probably widen the aperture a little bit and test a few things out to see the different effects on the water. But I quite like it, and it's a nice juxtaposition of the posts and the reeds, and hey, we're all entitled to be a little bit arty occasionally. So quickly grab this one and then back to the car. Right, well that was good. That was a nice little yomp as well. I think yesterday, in the weather we had yesterday, I just absolutely felt, what's the word, battered, I think is the best way to describe it. Today, this morning, after the wind and that hail and rain and my camera falling over twice, I think I probably feel more plastered than battered. Might get a t-shirt made up. Better to be plastered than battered. Well, that was good though this morning. I feel that was constructive. I'm going to go and get some grub and a cup of coffee, and this afternoon's plan is to head up to the hills, but it's very windy, so I'm not quite sure. Let's see where we go with that. Right, let's crack on. It had indeed, the weather had worsened, so I decided to make it an hour's drive over to Applecross, which is about an hour from Torridon. Here the signpost you can see is actually saying learner drivers and large vehicles, you don't want to use this, and in the winter it can be impassable and actually quite dangerous, so if you're not sure, either get some local advice or don't try it. This is the Bealach Na Bah, the pass of the cattle. They used to take the cattle through here down to Applecross, but it goes from sea level to 2,000 feet in just a few miles, so you can see why the conditions can be like here, wet at the bottom but really heavy snow at the top, which it was on this day. There was a lot of snow higher up. But I did think, given the conditions were so moody and dark, there is a waterfall about 1.5 miles up this road, which would make a really good subject for the conditions. Right, hi everyone. Well, we made it up to the bottom of the Applecross Pass to this rather lovely little waterfall. It's actually quite well known. I won't be able to record for long. It's pouring down. I'm a little bit worried about the vlogging camera, and it's going to get covered in water again. But to talk you through it, it's a fantastic location. You probably can't see the hills right up here. That swing right round behind us. Whoa, I've got to be slightly careful, I'm on rocks here. I've got my cloth to hand yet again. Right, let me talk you through what I was saying. The problem here actually was it's quite lopsided, and that all the water's coming through here on the left, and there's not much here, so the obvious shot is to stand down there and you just look up and you get those hills and those with the tree in the middle, but it's very lopsided, and that the cloud is obscuring more on the right, but also the water flow. When I came up the other day, there was a lot more water in it, even though it's pouring down now. It had poured down the 2 days before. So this is a torrent, so this little right-hand stream, the smaller one here, where are we? There we go, this one, was much bigger, so it's more balanced. Anyway, I've tried the shot from over here in the middle, but what I've settled on actually is more the bigger waterfall with the mountains in the background, various shutter speeds. I tried a couple of things. It's so murky and it's pouring with rain. Must be absolutely mad. I apologise for the camera getting wet. Ooh, how's that? Not much better. It's about 2 degrees, my hands are freezing. Just if you do come here, be very careful. This bit down here is really slippy, and you wouldn't want to fall in there. But easy to get to, relatively, once not just by the road, and the road bridge is here. But a beautiful spot. I might come back tomorrow because it's so murky. I want sunlight, and the mountains are magnificent. I've got a couple of shots, but I may come back tomorrow. But I'll show you the shots now. It's really straightforward on the camera. It's my 16 to 35 mil. The framing is fairly, as you'll see, it's pretty obvious. And I'm using f14, and I've gone right down to below my native ISO. So I was at ISO 64, but I've gone below that. And I've tried shutter speeds between about, hang on, I'm just going to wipe the cameras. My nose looks a bit odd. Hang on, let's have a go. Oh, God. There we go. Just for a moment. And shutter speeds between around about, I think about 0.8 of a second and around 1.62 seconds, that sort of area. So to try and get a different texture in the flow and see how it looks. In actual fact, although it's really cold and wet, it's still quite fun to be out. The bigger problem, what about, is vlogging. So I'm going to stop this camera now, and I might do a few stills with a little bit of film with the GoPro. Just be aware that Torridon can be pretty brutal in the winter and it can beat you up, but it's an amazing place and I really, really recommend you go. I'm just going to leave you with some images I took on the other days of my trip and just show the variety that you can get in just a few days in this amazing part of northwest Scotland. It's over in a flash and you're on your way. Somebody near. It's open for tonight, it's not too late. Says yes, you've been here for quite some time, but my heart tells me you should stay a little while. Are we at the end or are we at the start? 129 beats per minute from my heart. Anywhere we go is where I long to roam. My heart screams, let me carry you home. Bright lights and colors.